Good morning, Anna Berry, Committee Chair for High Speed Intercity Passenger Rail Committee. Welcome. We're so thrilled to see this great group out early in the morning. We have a great day planned, and we're going to kick it off now with our APTA leadership. Thank you.
I think we're good. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Doran Barnes, and I serve as chair of APTA and the executive director of Foothill Transit in eastern Los Angeles County. And it's a pleasure to be with you today. As I was going through the materials last night, wow, the registration for this event is huge, and I think it shows the interest in this topic. This last summer, I had the good fortune of representing APTA in Europe and flew into Brussels for some meetings, and then had to get from Brussels over to Paris. And figured, okay, this is going to be another airplane flight and the hassles of air travel and all that kind of good stuff. But no, boarded the high-speed train in the city center of Brussels, literally blocks away from the hotel, short walk, zipped right into Paris. It was about an hour-and-a-half ride, cup of coffee, spacious, enjoyable, arrived right on time. Pretty amazing. Come back to Los Angeles, my hometown, and we're famous, like many areas, for traffic congestion, for challenges, and we also travel up and down our state quite a lot. And no such luck getting from Los Angeles up to the San Francisco area. It's a crowded airport, it's a congested freeway, it's an airport on the edge of town that gets you to the airport on the edge of town. And we've got a lot of work to do. Fortunately, in California, we're making progress, slow but sure, and it's a steady drumbeat. But when I think about the topic today, getting to the tipping point, we all have a lot of work to do to keep making sure that tipping point happens. And the good work that you're going to be doing here is center and key to that conversation. Now, I don't know that in my lifetime I'll ever ride high-speed rail from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., which I also seem to be doing a lot these days, but certainly up and down the state of California or along the eastern seaboard, to be able to have that kind of an experience, to be able to have that as part of our infrastructure is absolutely crucial. Now, we know this is hard work. This is really hard work, and that's the purpose of your conversation today, and I know it's going to be a robust and lively conversation. I know that you're all going to walk out of here at the end of the day with all the answers, right? Well, maybe not. But you're going to come out with lots of new ideas, with continued energy, with continued focus in order to make the needed infrastructure requirements and improvements that will keep our country moving, keep mobility options available, keep things moving forward. And again, it's not easy. It's not easy to do this. I had a board member who just stepped off my board, great board member, very thoughtful, very engaged, fabulous individual. But she would often go with me up to Sacramento to meet with our delegation in Sacramento, which is very important to our home agency, our home transit system. And I can't remember exactly what the T-shirt read that she wore, but it was something to the effect of, "I'm being railroaded by the high-speed train." She wasn't a fan. And I think it just marks the notion that we've got to continue to demonstrate the value that the types of things that we're talking about provide to the communities that we serve. Lots of work to do, lots of great conversation, and I certainly appreciate all the energy and excitement around the topic. This event is a reflection of the great planning by our committee leadership, Anna Berry and Al Engel, Dominic Spaling, and so many others on APTA's High Speed and Intercity Rail Committee. I believe this is our largest committee, I think Anna was telling me. Certainly one of the largest, and again, it shows the level of activity. But not only is it large, it's very engaged and very active, and I know you have a lot of great conversations. Your forthcoming report to establish a consistent methodology for qualifying the economic and social benefits of passenger rail investments will be another major contribution to our industry, and we're looking forward to getting a glimpse of that in the agenda as part of the conversation this afternoon. And we certainly will be talking over the next couple of days as we're here together for APTA's Legislative Committee and for our board meeting about that little event that happened last November. Just a few weeks ago. A little change that's going to be happening up the street here at the White House. It's a new period, a new day, and we have to make sure that we're positioned, that we're establishing our industry as a vital component of those infrastructure investments that are part of that national conversation. That conversation's still unfolding, but now more than ever, we've got to be absolutely engaged in what's happening in terms of things here at the national level. We want to thank our members and partners and advocates who are in attendance today, and again, ask all of you to make sure that you're raising your voice to support the infrastructure initiatives. Our legislative committee will be meeting tomorrow afternoon, and our board of directors will be meeting on Friday, and all of this will be a continuing conversation over the next several days. I encourage you to participate in all of those activities, along with our legislative reception that will be happening tomorrow evening. Again, we want to make sure that our voice is loud and that our voice is strong. I certainly commend you all for your impressive body of work. You have my full support, and while I run a bus system, rail is near and dear to my heart. It's certainly important to the overall balance of transportation options that we're providing, and anything I can do to support your committee's work, please know I stand with you to make that happen. This time I'll turn the program over to Dick White, our APTA CEO. Dick is doing an incredible job for us. Dick and I have been working very closely together over the last several weeks here, and Dick has been a tireless advocate for our industry, working extremely hard. And Dick, thank you for all that you do for our association, our industry. So Dick White. Here we go, sir.
Thank you, Doran, and good morning. Let me echo Doran's warm welcome to all of you here today for what is APTA's third high-speed passenger rail forum. So I'd sort of like to begin with a question. Anybody in this room interested in high-quality intercity passenger rail service by any chance? Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I think you've voted with your feet. You know, the large number of people who are here today. I mean, we had 150 people pre-register, and people are probably going to be coming in and out, you know, during the course of today. And I asked Art, well, you know, this is the third one, and your one last year was here almost immediately after we moved into this building. I think you were the first ones that christened this room here, and we had to, you know, it was like just in time to make sure that everything was working for you all and everything else. And he said, I think we had about 100 sign up last time. So, you know, from 100 to 150, that's pretty impressive. You have a great looking program. You have 5, you know, great morning and afternoon sessions. I mean, you have just, you know, top moderators and panelists. You know, obviously to thank the committee leadership with Anna Berry and Al Engel for all the great committee leadership work that they do that's bringing us to this forum today. Also, I'd like to sort of acknowledge the long list, many of you who are in this room of I call it, you're really the zealots for kind of putting this program together, and buried somewhere in the back of our program is the acknowledgement of that kind of long list of passionate people who are making today possible. I want to thank Art Gazzetti as a VP for policy to sort of kind of be the glue that helps do this on the staff side to make this happen. Want to kind of also acknowledge, as I like to do with each of your committee meetings, just really what I think is one of the most outstanding publications outside of our own passenger transport and things like that. But Speed Lines, the November 2016 edition that just came out, just, you know, must read information, and they're really, really fabulous. So, you know, it's really kind of impressive, I think, when we reflect upon, you know, what we as a nation, you know, have accomplished. I know many people in the room are saying we're not going fast enough. We have a lot more to do. You know, we're not getting as much traction as we really should. And you know, sometimes it takes time to sort of make great things happen. But, you know, just acknowledging the fact that Amtrak, you know, is our high-speed rail service, certainly on the Northeast Corridor. It celebrated its 45th birthday this year, and recently reported really an impressive 92% cost recovery ratio. So, I mean, you know, that's a pretty good business model right there. The Acela Express service has been steadily growing in ridership since it was inaugurated in 2000. And just a couple of months ago, Amtrak announced its purchase of 28 next-generation train sets for the corridor that likely be in service as early as 2020. So tremendous amount of progress being made there. You know, with federal funding, you know, we're all in it here for the same reason. I think that's one of the most important reasons why people convene here at APTA is our advocacy and our legislative lobbying. being, the ball was advanced back in 2008 with PRIA, really pretty much just in time before the stimulus bill a year later, 2009, ARRA, which gave a really good shot in the arm to high-speed rail. And of course, just a year ago in the FAST Act, we included a rail title for the first time. So that's all tremendous progress. Services are popping up all over the place. It was a year ago that California broke ground for its high-speed rail station in Fresno, and I know that's a big part of your agenda. Jeff Morales and others to be talking about the California status and experience, kind of under the radar screen, coming up just next year in Florida. All aboard Florida's Brightline train service is scheduled to open, connecting the transit nodes in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando. A number of states are making tremendous incremental progress with what they're advancing in their passenger rail services long list: New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, in the Pacific Northwest. We just had, about a year ago, the draft Tier 1 EIS and Service Development Plan for the 457-mile Northeast Corridor released by FRA. And we're awaiting, hopefully in the near future, the step to release the final EIS and Service Development Plan, a really big step forward. But I know still much more needs to be done. That's one of the reasons why you're all here today. It's what you're going to be talking about all day long. We do need to figure out how we balance all of the needs of our transit services across the country with what is needed here in intercity passenger rail and high-speed rail service. There's an $86 billion backlog that needs to be worked off in basic infrastructure needs of our transit services. So, that's a tall order as well. But we're going to figure out how to do it, because we're all going to do it together. We're coming here. That's the power of APTA, is how we stay connected as an industry, how we move forward with one voice, how we make sure that all the various needs are properly balanced so that we can have that strong voice in advocating what we're looking for. So I congratulate you for everything you do. I thank you for being here today. I welcome you, and I'm happy to turn the program over to the capable hands of Anna Barry to move us through this. Thank you very much.
Does it work? Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Dick and Doran. We appreciate your kicking off this great event. I want to get a couple of housekeeping items out of the way. First, we have been working very hard on a program that I think is jam-packed and fills every minute of this day until 4 o'clock, our scheduled close. So we're going to try to keep ourselves on schedule and appreciate your help in doing so too. So we're overlapping speakers and lunch and things like that, but it was an effort to get as much into the program without making it into an overnight event. So we're trying to be respectful of people's time and budget. So thank you for that. And Art has reminded me that APTA is a green organization. We're committed to recycling. So there are a couple of recycling drawers underneath the coffee service area. So help us out there if you would. It helps us with the rent, I guess, if we do that. So always trying to be budget conscious here. So schedule, budget, scope, we're good. So I want to tell you a little bit about our committee, the High Speed and Intercity Passenger Rail Committee of APTA. The committee's been part of APTA, so I think about 10 or 11 years, when the High Speed Ground Transportation Association transitioned from a private association to an APTA committee. And during that time, I guess I've been corrected, we are the second or third largest committee at APTA, I think second to the legislative. Sorry for that misinformation, a little over promotion. But we're the second largest committee at APTA, and even although our meetings are at 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning, we get a huge representation at all of our meetings at APTA conferences. So we're very large, very active, and anxious for everyone who wants to join us to be part of our mission to promote intercity and high-speed passenger rail. The implementation of our mission over the years has been flexible to respond to changing conditions. I think we're about to experience that situation now. And the promotion of high-speed and intercity passenger rail is something that we are continuing to refine our work program, which we'll be renewing again this year. I joined the leadership about the time Peter Gertler became president 2 years ago, with the continuing support of Engel, the vice chair. And at that time, Al and Peter engaged in an effort of focusing the committee leadership on a work program that would be meaningful to the industry and to APTA. And it was, we had an excellent leadership effort and team building effort at that time, about 2 years ago. And we came up with, we revised our mission statement and our vision statement, and in doing so, we created an emphasis and a focus on where we wanted to go and what our role would be in the coming years. And I'm hoping to emulate that myself as we begin this next 2-year program. And at that time, what we decided was we wanted to be thought leaders in the industry. We wanted to, and to contribute to thought leadership. And part of that was the initiation of this forum, which we started very nicely in this building last year, as you mentioned. And we've been able to continue, and I hope pretty soon we can call it the annual policy forum. So it last year proved to be an excellent program, and I think I can see, as you did vote with your feet, that you're coming back for more. So so that thought leadership is an important part of our mission. And that also supports the other part, which is advocacy for high-speed and intercity passenger rail. This committee and its leadership has been very active with the overall legislative effort at APTA in particular to promote and to be a voice along with the other parts of APTA for supporting funding and infrastructure support. A major part of, and a new emphasis, I would guess, is the desire to improve our partnerships, both within APTA with other modes and within the industry, the high-speed and intercity passenger industry. We recognize, as part of APTA, we're part of the public transportation family. And just as other modes, you know, I work in public transportation as part of my mission. In bus and rail, we worry about the last mile. We also have to worry about the big miles. And this committee sees itself as part of an intermodal system, and we want to make that more important part of what this committee does as well. At the same time, we see ourselves in a unique position to work with to build partnerships across the industry of high-speed and intercity passenger rail. And Chairman Barnes referred to some of the complexity of the mission we have, in that there are folks who love rail, there are folks who love intercity rail, there are folks that love high-speed rail. They're not all the same people. Sometimes you can't mention high-speed in the same room as someone who loves intercity. So it's been a challenge to thread the needle on our titles here, and you can see we sometimes mixed it up. But it's true, and it's a challenge. We have to recognize it. So one of the first panel we have today is a leadership panel to get many of the stakeholder groups at the same table to talk about our roles are and how we can work together where we have commonality and where we don't, and how we can be at peace, I guess. So we've initiated, we're going to work further on our internal and external partnerships over the next, in our coming work program, so that we can make the intercity and high-speed rail mode more meaningful across the board. So that's essentially what we're all about, and you heard the introduction to the panel at 9 o'clock, so I don't have to do my initial 5 minutes there. And we welcome you today. We hope for another very productive and, again, jam-packed session. And we will certainly be looking for your feedback at the end of it. And thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your attention. Now I'm turning the program over to Al Engel. So.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. How many people have not been to a high-speed rail policy forum? All right, well, that's good. Then this is worth doing. I'm going to give you a little bit of background information on the last two. The first one, actually, this is the third. The first one was called the Speedlines Editorial Roundtable. And then last year we called it the High Speed Rail Policy Forum, and now we're calling it the High Performance. We just keep asking ourselves, what are we? And as you said, high performance might cover it all, but this mode is all about sustainability, and going off script a little bit, but I'm thinking about APTA, Doran Barnes, great treasurer that you were, and we're really excited about your chairmanship. Dick White, we're happy to have you. Thank you for your remarks, and thank you for the little story about Thales. I took that many years ago. It's amazing how long ago, when there was a strike in Paris and all the airport operators weren't operating. So they pulled our plane in, flew it into Brussels and said, you're going to finish your trip into Paris on the Thales. So we were delayed about 3 hours. We had to get off the plane, go to the train station, and it was a lovely ride. And many people in America don't appreciate what's happening globally, and even people. So I thought I would take a little time to go through that. I only have 2 major topics just to discuss the some of the conclusions of the first 2 sessions, and then a very quick condensation of data that Eduardo Roma helped me develop, the global mileage. I took 20 pages of data and turned it into 3 slides. So, and if you want the 20 pages, we can probably share that with you in terms of where it's happening. Well, what about sustainability? Well, this mode allows us to sustain our economy, our mobility, because of the tremendous capacity we can build with these lines. But it's also a sustainability issue for APTA. I started in APTA back in the 70s and was one of the, how many people were at the New York annual where Jim Carter, remember the president, attended the, anybody at that meeting? Yeah, okay. Stan? Mort, of course, you were hosting it. But here walks Jimmy Carter, and he talked about how the automobile was becoming obsolete in 1979. Well, it is becoming obsolete slowly, but we're still a very automotive-centric. But it's sustainability for APTA. You have gone through 3 major waves of public transportation. First, it was the heavy rail systems, Washington, BART, and whatnot. Then we moved into the light rail era, second wave of public transportation. Commuter rail got really going in '87 or so. Stan, you were there. And this is the 4th wave of public transportation, intercity rail. And this is a major business opportunity for APTA. You can build your program, you can double your program when you really get this mode going, because it's a $200+ billion a year enterprise. So back to what happened in the last 2 sessions. The first session, I guess, slide 2, yeah. Okay, you see the titles up there. We talked about what will be the tipping point for a U.S. commitment to a high-performance intercity passenger rail program. And then last year we said, well, how do we get to that tipping point? And this year, well, you have the program in front of you. So the purpose of this forum is not to discuss or debate the merits of high-speed rail. That would be like debating whether we should move to a diesel electric propulsion from steam. It's a well-accepted mode around the world. We just haven't figured out a way to really implement it yet in the U.S. It's what we're here about is, how do we get to the tipping point? And in the first, you can change the slide, whoever's doing that. Okay. These were some of the conclusions of the, we had 6 thought leaders there, and there's still a debate about whether high-speed rail should pay for itself or not. And we have to get to the point where that we recognize that high-speed rail is another form of public transportation, and it requires some public investment. It will not pay for itself. And we need a successful demonstration project. The Acela Express might be that, but it doesn't seem to have been the catalyst for a national program. California could be that demonstration project. Who knows? The Texas to Houston project could actually be implemented ahead of California. So once we have a good demonstration project, that will start a real national commitment to this mode. That was one conclusion. And when you look at Japan or Spain or France, which followed Japan, you saw one major demonstration project. Everybody wanted it in the country, and it just went crazy. Look at Spain; it's now the 2nd largest system in the world. And you can read the other points here. And really, it's probably going to grow out of regional initiatives, the corridors I mentioned and others. And just like the Turnpike program turned into an intercity high-speed, and there won't be a big bang, unfortunately. We're just going to have to keep plodding along and pushing these various corridors and working toward a national policy. So then we go to the second meeting last year, and we were very fortunate to have that right on the heels of the FAST Act, which is the first highway bill or transportation bill with a rail title. I think most of you follow the industry pretty closely and you know that. But we all concluded that this represents a transformative moment for us, who are advocating this mode. And we really need to build on that rail title, not well funded, but that's the next step. But at least we don't have to make the sale that we need a rail title. And we also need a bigger trust fund, new source funding, and all these kinds of things, which you're all going to solve on tomorrow afternoon, right? Friday. Okay. But anyway, so those were some of the conclusions, and you're going to have a copy of these, so I won't read them all. And and what's happening in the rest of the world? This is really a phenomenal story. There are 15 countries now that operate high-speed rail, including Uzbekistan. Has anybody ridden that system? That operates at an average speed of 100 miles an hour over 214 miles, which is about the New York to Boston corridor, roughly, and 100 mile an hour average, which is more than we operate. The highest average speed we have is 88 or 89 from Philadelphia to Washington. So even Uzbekistan has it. So you can see this plot here that it started way back in 1964 in Japan with the famous Tokaido line from Tokyo to Osaka. And then it took almost 2 decades to implement it in France. So we're on the next slide here in terms of what is the global mileage. And I really condensed this. I didn't want to give you a country by, I do have one slide which does summarize some of the countries. But 2 years ago, just imagine this, there were 14,000 some miles, route miles of high-speed rail in the world. And in 2 years, we've gone to 21,641 miles. That's phenomenal. And 32,000 miles are in the planning stage, and you can see the construction number there. So by 2030 or 35, whenever that horizon ends, you'll have 52,000 miles globally. This does include the California project, so those of you involved in California, you got to make that happen to make these numbers come true. So the next slide is a summary of how many countries are actually operating, and they're segmented: Europe, Asia, and then the other countries, which is one. But by in another decade or two, we'll have 29 countries, and that includes the United States, of course, on that list. The next slide shows us the countries that are operating at 155 miles an hour or greater. Commercial speed is 186 to 220. I don't think anybody's operating at 220 right now. 186 is probably where most people run. And there's the breakdown of the mileage among all these countries, and China is by far the greatest mileage compared to the others. And that's a phenomenal. Now, who rides the systems? Well, I have a mix of statistics here, but the latest China statistic I have is close to a billion riders annually in China alone. And in the country of Japan, which has 127 million people, they move 300 million people a year. So they turn almost 3 times a year, 127 million people. In the rest of the world, you have 250 million riders. The Acela Express service moves 1.7 million of that 240. That's how we compare. So if we lined up all the people in the United States, it would take 100 years for each one of them to get a ride on the Acela. Think about that. So what is the next administration going to do? Well, we were all surprised to watch the returns as they came in. I think we were prepared for a different outcome, and Peter Pizer, one of our legislative writers, who's in the where's Peter Pizer? Many of our authors in Speedlines are in the room, and I thank them for the contribution for the latest issue. And Peter Pizer did the legislative report, and he had his report prepared for the way things would turn out according to the polls. And of course, on Wednesday, he had to spend a few minutes rewriting the story. But anyway, when we were all having our committee meeting out in, anybody see this magazine? It's not in the New York Times, but it's in most of your local papers. Parade. You ever seen this? Okay. Many of you probably missed this if you were at the APTA annual meeting, because you were at a high-speed rail committee meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday rather than reading your Sunday morning paper. But my wife called me and she says, "Hey, did you see the Parade magazine?" I said, "No, not really." But she said, "Tom Hanks wants a high-speed rail system for the country. Are you interested?" And then she sent me the quote, which is up here. So anyway, I think it's pretty interesting that I think we've all seen one of his movies. Has everybody seen Sully? It's a great movie, isn't it? But anyway, Tom Hanks is wise enough to know that this is a great mode. And you think I'm kidding, but this guy could be a champion for us if we could figure out a way, Art. Or have you engaged him already?
Working on it.
You're working on it. Really? Let's engage Tom Hanks, get him together with Donald and Elaine, and have a chat. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. We don't know what's going to happen in this administration, but we're here to get through these very important issues and come up with ideas for a more rapid implementation. These projects take way too long. I mean, if you look at what China did in 2 years, it's crazy. We can't get a study done in 5 years on the Northeast Corridor. And how many times have we studied it? Probably 2 or 3 times. But we gotta work on the environmental process and everything else. So I will sit down now and turn it back to our esteemed chairwoman, chair, Anna, and roll right into the first panel. Good to see you all.